Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today I'll be doing a retro review of a film that came out in 1997, Starship Troopers, a movie that I had not seen up until today, actually. I saw that it was on sale on 4K, and I believe it is still on sale on 4K on Amazon, and I'm assuming other outlets as well, but it's the 20th anniversary 4K edition. And let me just say, first time watching it, I'm a pretty big fan of it. I actually was very impressed by how the vast majority of the visual effects that they use in the movie I think have aged pretty well. I think that they still very much work. They don't look too dated, especially a lot of the wide shots in space. Though I will say that there are definitely some moments in the movie where you're like, ooh, I don't know, this one, a little bit too much CG that doesn't really look all that good, especially when you compare it to other films from that era. But there are some still pretty good effects nonetheless for a film that, let's see, what was made for $105 million back in 97. So again, pretty big budget film for its time period, and I think that they use the money pretty well. It's a movie directed by Paul Verhoeven, and I believe he is the same mind behind films like RoboCop, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, if I'm wrong on that, people will probably be pretty mad at me. And yes, indeed, it looks like he has done films like RoboCop in '87, Total Recall, the original in 1990, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Hollow Man. Oh man, it looks like he's done a pretty wide range of movies here. But Starship Troopers, I would definitely say, is on the higher end of the films that I have at least seen. There is a lot of really fun. There's a lot of fun to be had in this. As it says, it's a satirical military science fiction action film, and I think that is a completely correct way of talking about this. Like most of the way that you watch it, it is almost as if you are watching a web page with like different news things. Like it asks you, do you want to learn more? Do you want to click here? So it's almost like you're watching a web page unfold, and then the movie plays in front of you, and it's almost like it's showing these different shots from the live battlefield. Of course, it's not shot specifically that way, right? So it is still shot cinematically and it looks like a regular film, but they definitely play on that from time to time with certain shots being as if it was being filmed. In fact, there's a couple times where you actually see somebody with a camera, and I think it just kind of made it a little bit more fun because it was very much a play on just this aspect of military propaganda. And I think that's something that has been very unique in Paul Verhoeven's style, right? Because there's a lot that can be said about a lot of the themes, for instance, in a movie like RoboCop. I think there are similar themes like that here in this movie. The difference is that, between with RoboCop rather and Starship Troopers versus other films that bring in some political elements into it, is that at least it gives you a fun and good movie. And, I think that's something that has been lost on modern Hollywood, where they focus so much on the message that the message becomes like their core function, and then they just can't make a good movie around it. While this one is able to tell a really, really fun story with some fun acting and some fun visuals in there, and also at the same time be able to have some of those other other mindsets down there. There's actually one quote in the movie where the guy criticizes the school, saying, schools shouldn't be, basically that military should not be allowed to promote at schools. And so I thought that was interesting commentary. This coming out in the 90s, obviously. There would still be some of that sentiment in the air, especially from an American mindset. It's apparently based on the 1959 novel of the same name, so actually it's kind of interesting to see how much different or how similar it is from that. But I will say the story is very fun. It's basically about a group of soldiers who are off to fight the bugs. The bugs are the bad guy, and they are on an alien planet, and they are sending essentially asteroids to destroy different parts of the Earth, and so these people have to come together and to fight against it. You have several different people in this movie. You got Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, Denise Richards was the one that I had recognized in this. Jake Busey, I thought there was someone that kind of looked very similar to a relative of his potentially. You also have Neil Patrick Harris, a very young Neil Patrick Harris. Very interesting to see him here. And also Michael Ironside. Michael Ironside had been in several random like Disney films when I was young. I think I remember him most notably from the Jet Jackson movie as being the villain there. Here he plays first a teacher, then a member of the military, and I really liked his character overall. So the acting, for the most part, was pretty, it was fine. It wasn't like, anything amazing or groundbreaking stuff, but it was solid for what the story was. Like, it was campy when it needed to be campy. It was serious when it needed to be serious. And there are definitely moments in here that I thought, probably could have done without. As you know, I don't really like unnecessary nudity in movies. I think that it's a trope that I'm glad has kind of gone away from a lot of modern day filmmaking, because obviously as a theology teacher, there are just a lot of things I think that societally, the damage that's been done by, basically making us so desensitized to that kind of stuff, I think really does lead to a lot of problems and dangers in our world, which is why I'm always very much speaking up against it, especially when you really don't need to show it, because there are different scenes. There's a couple scenes, right, where they're in the shower, and it's obviously the men and women are showering together because they're all in the military together. So I'm sure there might be some people able to kind of say that there are some commentaries there about men and women in military roles there. But again, in that way, they were showing them all naked. So it's the equality in being naked, but it was also like, yeah, but you didn't really have to show it. It really didn't serve the movie's purpose at all. And again, things like that, very much nitpick in that way. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I thought it was a really good time. As it says here, it received more positive reception in retrospect, with many critics highlighting the film's political satire. So yeah, of course, you're going to have, woke Hollywood critics who try and go back and, claim this film as being something that it wasn't, because yeah, there are those political undertones just like in the original RoboCop. But as I said, there's also that good, fun story, which you're able to also enjoy, and so therefore you're able to look kind of past those things. And also the things that they're mentioning in the story elements and the messaging that they have are things that I think are universally acceptable, or at the very least not nearly as controversial as some of the nonsense they're trying to push in modern filmmaking nowadays. But anyway, this was a fun movie, great visual effects that I think for the most part definitely hold up to this very day, though there are a couple of moments where the CG is like, maybe not as good. Acting is pretty spot on here. Everyone works together really well. The story moves at a pretty nice clip, and it's just a fun movie. It's a movie that I could totally see myself going back to. I remember putting a question out in Nerdrotic's Discord, actually, because it was right around the times I had just gotten off Friday Night Tights, and I was doing some looking around to see what was on sale for 4Ks and Blu-rays, and I saw this one, and I had heard so much about it, and so I put the word out there, hey, is this a film that you would recommend? And immediately, like 4 or 5 people were like, yeah, absolutely, this is a great film, and I can absolutely back that as well. I would probably give this movie a B+, and the reason why it's not quite in the A range, as I said, is because, as you know, I'm just not a big fan of that unnecessary nudity, and there are times when the CGI really doesn't hold up all that well. And again, I know that they could only use what they had at the time, but there were other segments that looked really good, so part of me wonders if they had maybe just used set pieces in a different way, if it would have looked a little bit better. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fun movie, and it was a pretty good time. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this movie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Also, smash that fire button. If you're watching over on Odyssey or Minds.com, I recommend checking out those locations, as they are alt-tech platforms that I support. And of course, it means that YouTube don't get none of those ad clicks. Also, if you have not voted in this year's Wednesday Raven Awards, they are indeed still going on right now. If you go to my website, linked in the description below, go and hover over Raven Awards, click on Raven Awards for 2020. There's a link right here that will bring you to your ballot. And if you want to see the nominees before that, with explanations as what each category is, at least the ones that are not nearly as well known as, for instance, Best Movie, it also gives you that as well. So anyway, go check that out if you have not done so already. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my March Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Animation Commentator, Brian P., Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, The Honky Chonky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, on to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Biffer the Hobbit, and of course the Empress of the Universe, Tina B. Thank you all very much for being my Patreon members. And now a shout out to all of my Subscribe Star members: Stan 4, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebanon G. Adams, and ZK Man, and Fast RXN, and Nosferatu Gatsu. And Dion, thank you all so very much for being my Subscribe Star members, and to everyone who has been supportive of the channel. Of course, a shout out to my YouTube members, and you all know that you get your special perks every single time that we do a live stream, so thank you again for your support. If you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and at the end of every single video, please check out the links in the description below to become a Patreon or Subscribe Star member today. You're going to also get access to things at the upper tiers, like a bi-weekly podcast that I do with my friend John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We also, of course, have a Chosen of Valhalla live stream once a month where me and my Chosen come together on this channel to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So anyway, if all that stuff sounds interesting to you, please check out the links below. You guys are amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.